Can I tell you something that most leader spouses won't say out loud? We don't compete with other people. We compete with the job. The emails, the crisis, the just 5 more minutes. And the hard part, the job always wins. Leadership doesn't just exhaust the leader, it slowly can drain the marriage. It can shorten patience with your kids. It fills the house with stress that nobody talks about. And the most dangerous part, the leader thinks they're doing it for their family while unintentionally disappearing from it. During this episode, we're talking about work-life balance. Not the cute version, but the real one. I'm Courtney.
I'm Mario.
And this is the Ed Leadership Pair podcast. And today we are diving in on some pretty personal at times
We're gonna get
conversations, pretty real about how hard it can be in schools to maintain a work-life balance.
So difficult. And I'm trying not to cry from your intro because I feel like you were talking to me.
What? No, I was just talking in generalities.
Just generally speaking, not you per se, but somebody like you.
Somebody that might be married to someone like you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and you know what the listeners maybe understand or don't, but we were high school principals at the exact same time. In Texas, the largest classification is called 6A. And we both led 6A high schools at the same time. You moved on to be a chief in a large school district in the central office while I was at the high school. So we had every excuse to let the jobs that we were doing take precedence over our relationship, over our responsibilities as parents, deprioritize our relationship with our parents or our siblings or our friends. And so this episode, we're going to get just a little bit personal with you all and an understanding that no matter how much you love your job, you shouldn't live to work. You should just work to support your living. And so we'll talk about this balance today in this episode of how to avoid some of the traps. And so what I want to let the listeners know is there's a fantastic piece of literature written by John Maxwell. It's called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And so we're going to cite this book throughout the episode multiple times. And so I just want you to know right up front, if you're a leader and you haven't accessed this book or read through these 21 irrefutable laws, they apply to a lot. They apply to a lot of leadership, but they are going to specifically apply to how you lead in a way to protect yourself, protect your organization, and protect the people you love, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a spouse or kids, you got to protect yourself in this job or the job will eat you up.
Yeah, you can get eaten up in any role, in any leadership role. Like it could have happened as chief of operations in the school district where I was, absolutely. But I feel especially for principals and superintendents because there's such an opportunity for the role to become your identity. And then everything else, if you let that happen, everything else will pay the price. And as a matter of fact, I remember when you and I were both hired, the superintendent that hired us, and at the time I loved it. And I was like, yes, I'm all in.
Well, let's
and he
shout him out. Let's say Dr. Steve Flores.
Dr. Steve Flores. And he said, I am hiring you to be Miss McNeil.
That's right.
Your job is to be Miss McNeil. And by God, did I fill my closet with blue and green?
You did.
And I was wearing every blue and green dress I could find. And I wanted to be everywhere at everything because I was going to be Miss McNeil.
Yeah.
And at the time you were, when I first got hired as principal at the high school, you were a principal at the middle school.
That's right.
And don't let anybody tell you that being at a middle school is any easier than a high school because you got the same amount of duty with less people
less
to
team.
supervise, less team. Yeah.
Less team.
And so that was difficult. But then when you moved up to Westwood in my third year, you came to the high school level. And for 2 years, we were both high school principals at the same time. And you got the speech about
Be Mr. Westwood.
Yep, exactly. And it was what was right for the school. And if you don't put some boundaries on that and you let that role become your identity, then your family, then everything else can pay the price.
Yeah, it can consume your not only your energy, but it can consume all of your relationships. It can consume your health, right? And so what'll happen to so many leaders is you just unintentionally equate exhaustion with commitment. In other words, I'm gonna be at everything. I'm gonna give every ounce of my health, of my mental capacity, of my physical time. And so what inadvertently can happen to great leaders is you think that effort and that time in and that energy in and that nonstop go commitment, you think that that's the way to do the job, and all that ends up happening is you burn yourself out and you become completely overwhelmed and overtaken by the job, and really there's a lot of negative consequences, that not just professionally but personally, that we're going to talk a little bit about.
And I'll add too, I think for both of us, and I don't necessarily want to speak for you, but I feel like you would say this as well. Being a high school principal was my favorite job ever. It was the most fun. I loved the relationship with the kids. I loved the relationships with the parents. I got to be the queen bee on that campus. It was so fun.
Newsflash, you're still the queen bee in this wonderful home.
Yeah,
I know there's not 3,000
people.
There are less. Yeah, there are less of us. But
and there's
you're
only
still
2 kids
queen.
left at
You're
home. So, so it was the most fun job. Like
it is a great job.
I know you would say that too.
Totally.
But it was by far the most exhausting, the most draining. I can't think of any job I have had previously where I would come home in tears, where I would just be so emotionally taxed by what happened, because you are dealing with some heavy stuff. And I don't care if it's elementary, middle, or high school principalship, whatever level. And I saw this across the board when I worked at the district level, what they would go through at the other levels. And it's just intense. And you are expected almost to be on call 24 hours a day. I remember we were in Vegas and sitting in the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and I get a call that I have to step away from a table because a student had passed away. Yeah. And so in a lobby of a hotel in Las Vegas, I am trying to plan the interventions that are going to come the next day. How do we get all the counselors to the campus, and where are they going to set up shop, and who are the kids that knew this child, and like all the things. And it automatically, everything stopped. Yep. Like the world just stopped, and you can't hand that responsibility off to someone else. Nope. And yes, there are things that you can delegate, but there are absolutely things that you cannot.
The 24/7 access, it's just nonstop for school leaders today.
Not every principal or superintendent or school leader is married and has a spouse and any of that, but you have relationships and you have things that matter in your life outside of work, or if you don't, you should. And now's the time to start to maybe explore some of that you need to pick up some things outside, because it cannot consume your entire being like that. It's not healthy.
Yeah, it's just not. Let's kind of start talking about some of the solutions. So first and foremost, when you're a school leader, the work is never finished. And that's a full stop. This is the kind of job that you could literally work endlessly and still never finish the work. What I try to do to support leaders who are struggling with balance is to help them understand the job won't be done. So don't ever wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to finish this job today. Instead, you got to learn how to prioritize your job, to say, what are the most important things that have to get done today? And what are the things that I can parse out, or what comes next in the line of what's important? So, leaders, it's critical that you work this job as not everything can be of the utmost importance. It'll wear you out, right? So you have to decide, when I wake up today, and it was a habit that I picked up from one of our mentors, Pete Galavis, who's a longtime superintendent. But Pete used to say, in the morning before you go to work, you should make yourself a list of whatever, 2 or 3 things that before you're done for the day, those have to get done. Right? That those are the non-negotiable, gotta get done. Everything else is gravy. Everything else is you got ahead. But it's like, look, I can't leave work unless these 3 things are done. And then that way, everything else you do, it can either be paused, you can pick it up tomorrow. Right? This is the kind of job that, God, it'll be there tomorrow, right? There's nothing stopping you. Go home and it'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, it's never going to be done. And you have to let it go. Like, you have to walk out of the building and know that you're not going to let yourself perseverate on it the rest of the evening as much as possible.
Yeah. I was not good at this, and you and our children in a loving, in a very loving, kind way. You guys have explained to me since I have left the campus principalship that I brought all the work home with me. That you know, you've told me this, and our kids have told me, like, Dad, you were home, but you weren't home. Your body was here. Your mind wasn't present. Your spirit wasn't present. You were always on the job. And it was a hard thing for me to swallow. It was a hard thing for me because I love my family and I was working for my family. Yes, for me, I have career goals, but my goal was to make sure that my family was well taken care of. So here I was pouring so much into my job that I was actually working counter to my goal.
Yeah.
I was being not enough of I wasn't present enough as a husband. I wasn't present enough as a father because I was trying to just hit the job with brute force instead of knowing how to find balance and knowing where to draw a line and be able to shut my brain off and shut my emotions off from work.
Even though you came home every night in your previous job,
the kids found that I was more present.
You were more present.
Even though I was traveling. So I think, for you listening, leaders, the job can take everything from you, in your effort to give everything to the job. It can take everything from you, your ability to be present for your family, the time and the attention that they need. And so that's just a good lesson from those of us who maybe have done it not the best way, is to find a way to draw a line and leave work at work. It'll be there tomorrow. We like to give resources for our listeners. Is really 3 good books that I'm going to offer to you that can begin to help you with the introspection about building work-life balance. And we're going to start with 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And this book emphasizes what an intentional morning structure looks like. And it also will teach you potential structures and systems about how to build boundaries to separate work from home. So a really good offering there.
Before you go on to the next one, can I tell you we did that?
Did you really?
No. You, my husband, we did that.
We did that. Okay.
So when we were both on campuses, we actually set up a routine where we would get up. We would try to go to bed early, not as early as I wanted to go to bed.
She wants to go to bed at 7:30.
Not 7:30, but maybe 8:30. But we would try to go to bed early, get up at like 4:30, get dressed really fast. We would go to Orange Theory for an hour and do our little craziness. And then we would come back and get to sit down and have coffee for 30 minutes before we started our day. And it was just really nice to get that time together. But it was a really intentional structure that we set up to make sure that we saw each other and spent time together. And it was like a little date morning every morning that we would do it. And so when we didn't do it, we felt like we missed out. And I was like, I didn't even get to see you today and all of that. And it's funny because it has even continued now that we're not even having to do it at 5 a.m. because that's crazy. And we don't do Orange Theory anymore.
We're not principals
because also we're old.
Our joints couldn't handle anymore.
We're a little bit over that. It's a little too much. But we still every morning that you're home, we get up early because the dog wakes us up really early, and which is why we got him. And then we go walk the dog for a few miles, and then we come back and we have coffee together. And on the days we don't do it, we feel like we missed out. So we have built these routines together that allow us to kind of spend time and get that face-to-face and alone time without the kids and all of that. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you connected that when you
I didn't, but I do now. It's really good. Yes.
Yeah. So good job.
Building those morning structures and
Tiger.
All right. The other 2 books we'll offer you is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And in this book, the core idea is that if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. In the book, he calls it essentialism. Essentialists understand that not everything deserves equal attention and that there's different parts of your life you have to prioritize. And then finally, a book that we've talked a lot about in previous episodes is Dare to Lead with Brene Brown, because in part of the book in Dare to Lead, she talks about how there's this thing called armored leadership, where leaders use overwork as an armor. In other words, thinking that I'm the better employee, or I'm a better leader because I overwork. And I've been around a few leaders like that. I won't name any of them, even though sometimes I want to. But just putting in time, being the last one in the building, just so people can see your light on. I worked for leaders like that. They're like, no, you're going to sit here and you're going to watch me work until 6 o'clock because when the lights are on, everybody thinks we're working hard. And so I can't say this as directly and a little bit snarky, for anybody listening. Just being at work and putting in hours doesn't make you a good leader. Matter of fact, it kind of sends the opposite message to your organization.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this armored leadership that Brene Brown writes about, that just, hey, I'm here and so I'm better because I work longer hours, it actually is a setup for major burnout.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, Joe Bennett on The Office?
Joe Bennett from The Office.
On St. Patrick's Day,
That's
and
right.
she wants to stay there. And he's like, I am pleased with the amount of work I have done today.
I'm pleased with
So
the
he's
amount of
willing to
work I've
go.
done today. That's
But
right.
yeah, when I supervised principals, there were definitely principals that did wear it like a badge of honor, that they would be I'm so exhausted. I had to stay so late and I had to do this and do that. And I'm like, I don't think you're really prioritizing your time.
That's
and
right.
I don't
You're
think you're
telling me you're
delegating
inefficient.
appropriately.
That's right.
And
And
I
you're
don't think
ineffective. Yeah.
you're actually not. That's not how it should be.
Agreed.
Let's talk about some opportunities where you can offload some of that stuff
That's right.
to your team.
That's right. And we had really good mentors to talk about that taught us to, you set a time and you go home. You go home at a reasonable time. And Dr. Phil Warwick was a good mentor of ours. And I remember working for Phil. The buses would roll and he'd stay about another 30 minutes. And then you'd see him turn the light off and get up and go home to his family. And when the boss does that, it gives everybody else permission to do it. And so I carried that for the remainder of my time as a principal. I used to stay about 30 to 45 minutes on a regular basis after that last kid left the building. And then I would get on the radio because I knew all my APs still had the radios on and say, hey, everybody, it's time to go home. Thanks for a great job today. You guys did great work. Everybody go home to your families or go home to your personal time. We got to get out of this building. So it's the opposite. You shouldn't walk around with a badge saying I worked long. You should say we were so efficient during the day because we care so much about balance that the leader's going to set the tone of getting out of the building, or getting away from the job and bringing balance.
Don't be Joe Bennett.
Don't be Joe Bennett. And we'll tie this to the irrefutable laws of leadership from John Maxwell. I'm going to bring up 3 laws. Law number 1, it's called the law of the lid. And what Maxwell teaches us is that the leader's effectiveness is capped by the leader's personal capacity. So burnout lowers your lid, right? So if you burn yourself out, your lid comes down. Second, the law of priorities. Leaders understand that activity is not accomplishment. Just sitting there till 8 o'clock with the lights on doesn't mean you're accomplishing a whole lot. And finally, the law of solid ground. Trust is built through integrity, and that includes integrity for your family and your home life.
I like that. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Talked about burnout lowers the lid. Do you think in any of your roles in public education, you ever got close to burnout?
Yes. There were times that you had to come to school because I was in the back of an ambulance because of what felt like a heart attack.
That did happen.
But of course, thank God, knock on wood, was more of a anxiety attack brought on by eating incorrectly, by over drinking coffee. Honestly, drink too much coffee and not enough water. And our friend Tina Bogren, Dr. Bogren, would say, "Yeah, dummy, you got to drink the stupid water." And by overstressing myself. So yeah, was I ever close to burnout? Yeah, sometimes to the point of where my secretary Amanda, wonderful Amanda, was like, "Boss, I think maybe we got to call 911 because you are not." Coherent or looking like you're feeling
Thank God
well.
for her. Thank God for her.
Well, great people put other great people around them to take care of you.
That's right.
And Amanda was an angel that way.
And how important to know what your personal signs of burnout are, because your signs look really different than my signs.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you got close to burnout?
Yes. It looked like over emotional exhaustion and like I can't do this anymore. I can't do this for another day. I can't be on this cycle and this wheel that feels like it's never ending, and I can't make headway. Like I can't make progress the way I want to make it because I have some massive barrier. And then when I got to that point, it was like everything just started caving in. Like it would just all pile on, and I would recognize everything as a problem or everything as an issue. And until I could step away from it fully and like regain my sense of balance, it just was totally overwhelming. and so uncomfortable. And so I think it's important for leaders to recognize your signs. Like, how do you know when you're getting close to that? And then what are the things that you need to do? Some of us need to go to the emergency room. Some of us need a hot bath and to go take a run. But so it looks different for everybody. I don't know. Find your peace. But yeah, I think that's so important.
Well, yeah, you know, and as your husband, I'll talk now not as the school leader, but as your husband, I can tell when you are nearing burnout at work. Because again,
I get cranky.
No, I would never say such a thing. You are a wonderful, perfect
Thought we were
wife.
going to be honest today.
This is
Thought we were
honesty.
being honest.
Everybody who's listening knows that I am telling the truth, that you are a perfect person. There were some times that you needed me to take on more than you normally need me to take on. That's what it would look like at home. You would say, I can't do dinner tonight. Or you used to say this, you sometimes still say this to me, I just can't with the kids. There was just a full stop.
That's it.
That's
all I got
with
for
the
you.
Kids. That
Can't
no
with the
further
kids.
direction. Just take these humans and get them the hell away from me. And so, you know, we knew at home when you had hit a spot where you had overdone it at work. And, you know, and I know you've described things that in the way that I manifested too. And that's the dangerous part, is overworking yourself has such a heavy impact on your relationships. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Well, and we would use a strategy too, where sometimes we would come home and I would say, hey, I'm at like 27%. That's all I've got. And you would be like, okay, I'm at like 85. I got it. I can handle this and that, whatever we got to do for the night. And some nights you would come home and you'd be like, cool, I'm at a 40. We're going to order dinner. And then we're just getting into bed.
So let's talk
Like
about
it's
this.
over.
Who taught us this?
Brene Brown.
Is this a Brene Brown
I
thing?
think so. Why is
But
everything Brene
everything's
Brown?
Brene Brown. All great ideas. So
apparently this is the Brene Brown podcast. So, maybe we should just invite her on.
I was going to say, if anybody
Isn't
knows
she in
Brene
Austin?
Brown,
Like
maybe
she's here
tell her
teaching
she
at the
could
university.
come on to our podcast.
Yeah.
No, but
Let us know, Brene. You want to come? We'll be glad to have you.
Glad to have you on. In a relationship, it's a misnomer that each person gives 100%. The idea is, especially when you're two high-level leader professionals, that each of you together needs to get to 100%. So what Courtney's saying is, some days she'd come home and be like, look, I'm nowhere close to my 50. I'm at 20. And so I knew, okay, I got to be at 80 tonight, or I got to be at 80 this week. I'll carry the load, because I knew and I trusted in my partner that there were weeks where I'm like, I'm at 40, as you said, and I need you to step up and carry the other pieces of it. And so whether your spouse or your partner or your friends or whatever, you know, are high-level leaders, I think if you're a high-level leader, you have to know that you have to verbalize to the people around you, I'm not able to give you my normal max right now. And so this is what I'm going to need in the interim, or, you know, hey, let me take a beat and get away and I'll come back.
Yeah.
That was something I know I didn't do well in my younger years and got better as my hair fell out, was I let my emotions at home be impacted by all the work that had happened during the day. And so I learned over the course of time, because you were amazing and taught me how to do this, was, hey, why don't you take a break? Just step away for 5 minutes, get that emotion out, and don't take it out on the family. Don't take it out on your inner circle. We're all human, so you come home from work and you're carrying the crap of the day. So it's
and
really
you're
good.
walking into your safe space.
Yeah. So finally, you're right. I've been Mr. Perfect all day long at
Holding
work,
it together,
eating all the crap from all the people. So I get home to my safe zone, and then it's like, blah, here it all comes. And that's not fair to your people who are in your safe space. So that was something you really helped me get better at, was it's okay to feel that way and unload, but don't unload on us. Unload and then come be a regular human with us.
Yeah. And how important it is to have the conversation with your significant other or someone else that you're spending time with, like that you're in close proximity to say, look, here's where I am today, and just name it. Just call it out, because you can't continue on with the evening. It has potential, could have potential in some relationships to start to cause
not any
a
ones
fight.
that we know,
I'm not
but
gonna
maybe
say anyone's
people
name.
like us.
Maybe it rhymes with Wario, but I don't know. I'm just saying it could happen where it comes out and it causes a fight because of this lack of communication about where you really are.
You see, listeners, when Courtney was like, let's talk about burnout, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get hammered.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get hammered. Work-life balance. This is a pick on Mario episode. I knew it was coming, but I think it's really important that we communicate to leaders that in a leadership role, everything feels urgent, but very little actually is that urgent, right? Leadership is this never-ending to-do list, but the skill is knowing how to not finish the work, is how to discern what is most important for today. And you and I had this analogy that we used ever since we were young leaders together, that like being a leader, because the job is bigger than the time of the day, you're like juggling a lot of balls at once, right? You're like this performer juggling all these balls. Now, some of the balls you're juggling are made of glass because they're so important. They're so timely. It's a parent
urgent and important.
Yeah, it's a parent who's going to call the superintendent, or it's a kid whose life is at risk if you don't deal with it, right? So these are some glass balls. Those, they have to be caught and dealt with right now. Some of the other balls you're juggling, they're like rubber balls. They're like rubber handballs. If they drop today, you know what the worst thing is? They're going to bounce right back up and be there tomorrow, right? That one email, it's a rubber ball. Let it bounce. It's not the most important thing today. So I know you and I always had this analogy that we helped each other with, is like, do you know your glass balls? And don't let those drop. Those are the ones you got to catch today. The rubber balls, you know, it's okay. Those are going to have to fall and they're just going to bounce right back up. Now, a rubber ball can turn into a glass ball if you drop it enough times, right? If you leave something unattended long enough. And I think that's the skill for leaders, is you got to know what to prioritize. You got to know how to balance, and you got to know how to be strategic so that things are handled in a way that addresses all of those really critical needs.
Yeah. And I'll add too, I think it is so critical and important, especially if you are a leader of leaders and you have young leaders under your care that you are supporting, that you demonstrate a healthy balance of work and home. And you're not answering emails at midnight that they can see the time on it. Exactly. And that you're not, refusing to take a vacation because, oh my God, I can't leave. And we've already talked about that. If you can never leave, then there's something wrong. Like if you can't delegate anything, you are not getting your team where they need to be to support you. What a
horrible message to say to a leader. No, you can't take a vacation.
Yeah.
Well, that message it sends to the entire organization.
Yeah.
No one is that important.
No,
right? That
no.
You can't take a small vacation.
Absolutely.
We're not saying disappear forever, but what a good point.
Yeah, because burned out leaders create burned out cultures, and all you're going to do is end up burning out the rest of your team as well, and nobody's functioning at a high level at that point.
That's
so
right.
You have to create a sustainable work-life balance and show that to the leaders that you are supporting so that they also do that. And, a good team will cover down for each other. A good team will recognize when one team member has a lot of glass balls in the air and is like, hey, let me help with that one.
Yes.
Let me support you and let me take this one from you and I'll grab it. And maybe the leader is taking that from their team members and saying, you are clearly about to be underwater.
That's
let me help you.
You have too many glass balls. Let's redistribute these glass balls so that you don't end up dropping them or burning yourself out. Let me throw in some books. Again, this is an educational podcast for educational leaders. So one of the books that I think when it comes to building these boundaries is a book called Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And in this book, it talks about how leaders without boundaries eventually resent the people they serve. So in this book, Boundaries is all about setting up those boundaries so that you can escape your job. You can be effective and efficient and a world-class leader, but have strong boundaries around you to protect you from wearing yourself out. Because you said it. You said burnt out leaders built burnt out cultures. God, what a great statement.
Yeah.
Also, I want to offer
that was a great statement.
You were great. You are just all great. Listen, there's another great resource. It's a TED Talk from Nigel Marsh, How to Make Work-Life Balance Work. And so the argument in this TED Talk is not that work-life balance is some grand design. It's just that there's small daily strategic decisions that you have to make, and you have to make them intentionally so that you create this work-life balance. It's not this like far off in the future, like, oh, I'm striving for work-life balance. It's literally a day-to-day approach to leadership.
Yeah. And if I could add a little selfishly, but just for the women out there that are also moms, and not that the dads are not important. We've talked about you being a dad and the importance of all of that, but I just want to add for the moms, and I have 3 daughters. We have 3 daughters and 1 son. And I know for them, I wanted to always model what this looked like in a healthy way to, so our daughter number 2 she would say, you're such a boss lady. Like, you're such a boss lady. And so it was important to me to act in a way that was like a healthy boss lady while still being powerful and still being strong, but at the same time, still being a mom. And that came because I remember, I think it was in like my 2nd or 3rd year of being a high school principal. And I had a conversation with my oldest daughter. And she said something to the effect of, yeah, I just knew you were never going to be the mom that was there at the Valentine's Day party. And it was like, ugh.
You talk about stabbing you right in the heart.
Just gutted me. I felt so horrific. But I just want to encourage the moms out there, especially. It's so easy for a mom to get just enraptured in her role and wanting to be powerful and strong and do everything and feel like you got to stay double time. And you don't. You really don't. You can find boundaries. You identify where they are. You hold firm to them as much as you can. And yes, sometimes there are exceptions, and that obviously is going to happen. But just encouraging all the mom leaders out there, you can still get it. Like, it's there for you.
But I will just give you kudos and credit that you were not only a badass boss lady, but you've been an absolutely world-class mom and wife. So you are a great model for our listeners to follow.
So sweet.
Well, as we do at the end of every episode, we would like to encourage you to continue to follow us on our social media handles, both on Instagram and on YouTube. We continue to add content and send content to our subscribers. A lot of the books and the research and the resources, we package that and get that to you so that you can use it in your day-to-day. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our newsletter, please do so at www.theedleadershippair.com. So here's the truth that every leader needs to hear. The work will never be finished. There's always going to be one more email, one more parent, one more initiative. But your kids, they won't always be this age. Your spouse won't always wait patiently. And your health won't always give you a second chance. If you sacrifice your marriage, your friendships, your personal life for your school, you don't win, and neither does your school. If you build a strong culture at work and you create distance at home, also not leadership. Leadership really isn't measured by how late you stay, but it's measured by what you sustain. And the people who feel your leadership the most aren't always the ones that are in your school building. They're sitting at your dinner table. So go home. The work will still be there tomorrow. And with that, we're going to sign out. I'm Mario.
I'm Courtney.
Thanks for tuning in with us.
Thanks so much.